You have no idea what you've just unleashed. Michael's voice was low, filled with a strange mix of fear and admiration as he stepped out of the shadows. Emily Carter, standing in the middle of the dimly lit library, couldn't shake the feeling that she had just crossed a line, one she couldn't go back from. She had found it, that old, forgotten book. Her fingers had traced the ancient leather cover, the symbols embossed upon it calling to her in a way nothing ever had before. What was it about this book? Why did it feel so alive? She couldn't explain it, but the moment she opened it, something dark, something powerful, had been released. Michael Thompson, the man who had been cursed for centuries, now stood before her, his eyes glowing with an unnatural red hue, his presence commanding and unnerving. She had thought she was just a librarian, just a quiet woman with an unremarkable life. But when the curse broke free, when the shadow of his past rose, everything changed. I didn't mean to, Emily started, but Michael cut her off, his voice sharp and tinged with a sense of urgency. You didn't mean to? It doesn't matter. What matters is that you have the power to save me, or destroy us both. Emily took a step back, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the weight of the darkness swirling around them, and yet, there was something about him, a vulnerability that made her question everything she thought she knew. I don't know how to help you, she whispered, her voice trembling. Michael's gaze softened for a brief moment before he spoke again, his voice low and strained. You may not know now, but you will. You're the key, Emily. You always have been. His words echoed in the silence of the room, and for a brief second, Emily wondered if she could truly be the one to save him. Could she survive the impossible? Emily's hands trembled as she closed the book, her mind racing with questions she couldn't answer. Michael stood silently across from her, his intense red eyes never leaving her face. The room felt colder now, the air thick with an unspoken tension. What do you mean, I'm the key? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael's gaze softened. Slightly, but there was a hint of sorrow in his eyes. I've been cursed for centuries, he said quietly, and every moment has been a battle against the darkness inside me. But you, he paused, his eyes searching hers. You are different. You've always been the one who could break this curse. You just don't know it yet. Emily stared at him, her heart pounding. She was just a librarian, a woman with an ordinary life. But now, standing in front of her was a man who had lived for centuries, a man trapped in the shadows, and somehow, she had become the one person who could help him. I don't understand, she said, shaking her head. How can I possibly help you? Michael took a step closer, the weight of his centuries-old pain heavy in the air between them. You're more than you realize, Emily, he said softly. The book you opened, it chose you. Your connection to it is stronger than you know. You have the power to release me, to destroy the curse, but it will come with a cost. Emily's breath hitched. A cost? She repeated. Michael's expression grew darker. Yes, the price is more than just your safety. It's your heart, your very soul. The darkness I carry will try to claim you, just as it has claimed so many before me. Emily felt a cold shiver run down her spine. This was more than she had bargained for, but something deep inside her refused to back down. If there's even a chance I can help you, I'll try, she said, her voice firm with newfound resolve. Michael's eyes flickered with something like hope, a flicker he hadn't allowed himself to feel in centuries. You don't know what you're getting into, he murmured. But thank you. The room was silent except for the distant sound of the wind howling outside. Emily could feel the weight of the decision pressing on her chest, but as she looked at Michael, she knew she had to face whatever came next. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like just a librarian. She felt like someone capable of changing everything. But the real question was, could she survive what was coming next? Emily stared at Michael, her mind spinning with the weight of what he had just said. She had thought that helping him would be simple, that maybe, just maybe, she could break the curse. But the cost he spoke of echoed in her mind. Her heart, her soul. She had no idea what that meant, but she couldn't back away now. Michael was counting on her. What do I have to do? She asked, her voice steady but her insides twisting. Michael looked at her, his gaze softening for a moment, but there was still a heaviness there. It's not something you can just do with a spell or a gesture, he said, his voice tinged with sorrow. It's a journey, one that will challenge everything about you. The darkness inside me will try to pull you in. But if you can face it, If you can stand strong, you can break the curse. Emily nodded, determination settling in her chest. Then let's do it, she said quietly. Michael's eyes flickered with surprise. You don't understand, Emily. The curse isn't just about me. It's about you too. You'll feel it. The pull of the darkness, the temptation to give in. Most people who try to help fail. They become consumed by the darkness, just like I almost did. Emily took a deep breath, feeling a chill run through her. She thought of her ordinary life, of the simplicity she had known, and the vast unknown that stretched before her now. I won't fail, she said, her voice firm. Michael studied her for a long moment before he nodded. You're stronger than you know, he said softly. The room grew colder, the air thick with the energy between them. Emily could feel something shifting, something ancient stirring. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew this was the beginning of something that would change everything. Her life, her soul, her future. The darkness would come for them, but Emily was ready. She had to be. For Michael. For herself. Emily could feel the weight of the room pressing in on her, the chill of Michael's curse wrapping around her like a fog. They had traveled deep into the ancient library, Michael leading her down corridors lined with forgotten knowledge. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, but Emily refused to let fear take hold. She had to do this. She had to help him. As they reached a hidden chamber deep within the stone walls, Michael stopped. His face was grave, his eyes fixed on something she couldn't see. This is where it begins, he said softly. The darkness will test us both. It will feel like everything is falling apart. You have to stay strong, Emily. Emily nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the presence of the curse lingering in the air, watching them, waiting. I won't let you face this alone, she said, her voice steady. Michael's eyes softened for a moment, but the sadness never left them. You have no idea what you're about to face, he whispered. He turned to the center of the room, where a large, intricate symbol was etched into the floor. The symbol pulsed with an eerie light, and Emily could feel its power calling to her. Step into the circle, Michael instructed. This is the only way to break the curse. Emily hesitated for a moment, the weight of what she was about to do settling heavily on her. But then, she stepped forward, her feet moving without hesitation. As soon as she entered the circle, the air shifted. The temperature dropped even further, and a low hum filled the room. She could feel the darkness stirring, like an ancient beast awakening from a long slumber. Are you ready? Michael asked, his voice tense. Emily met his gaze, the resolve in her eyes unwavering. I'm ready, she said. As she spoke, the light in the symbol flared brightly, and the darkness surged forward, wrapping itself around them both. The room seemed to tremble as if the very walls were alive, but Emily stood firm. She could feel the pull of the curse, the weight of the centuries-old evil, but she didn't waver. She would fight for Michael. She would fight for herself. The darkness surged around Emily, swirling like a storm, pulling at her very being. She felt the cold tendrils of the curse trying to latch onto her soul, trying to drag her down into the depths of despair. But she fought it. She clung to the light inside her, the strange power she had discovered, the strength she never knew she had until now. Stay focused, Emily. Michael's voice rang through the chaos, steady and commanding. You have to hold on. The darkness is trying to break you, but you are stronger than this. Emily clenched her fists, the symbol beneath her glowing brighter, pulsing with an energy that seemed to fight against the shadows. The curse was relentless, clawing at her mind, whispering doubts and fears, but Emily refused to listen. She could feel Michael beside her, the weight of centuries of pain and torment, and yet, she felt the spark of something new, something powerful. We can do this, she whispered to herself, though the words were just as much for Michael as they were for her. The light in the room intensified, a blinding flash erupting from the symbol beneath their feet, pushing back the darkness for a moment. But just as quickly, the shadows returned, even more furious. It's not enough, Michael said, his voice breaking through the roar of the curse. The darkness inside me is too strong, too old. But you, your light, your strength, you can finish this. You have to. Emily felt the fear rise again, but she pushed it aside. She had no choice now. She couldn't fail. I won't fail, she said, her voice steady. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, closing her eyes for a moment, centering herself. The room seemed to hold its breath. Emily reached out with her mind, touching the darkness, not with fear, but with understanding. She had learned so much in such a short time. She knew now that the curse wasn't just something to fight. It was something to understand. As she reached deeper into the shadows, she felt a shift, a tremor. The darkness recoiled, and Emily pressed forward, channeling every ounce of light and strength she had. Michael stood beside her, silent but present, his centuries of pain not holding him back anymore. The curse was weakening, slowly, but it was happening. Emily could feel it. The question now was whether her strength would be enough to completely destroy the curse, or if something else would happen. But there was no turning back. Not now. Emily felt the energy in the room shift, a crackling tension in the air as the darkness recoiled, only to surge back with greater force. She could feel it trying to drown her, wrapping around her thoughts, threatening to pull her under. But she held her ground. The light inside her, the strange, unfamiliar power that had awoken when she touched the cursed book, was growing stronger. She could feel the curse's centuries of torment, its rage, its desperation, but with every second, she felt more in control. She had to do this. For Michael, for herself, for the future. You're doing it. Michael's voice cut through the chaos, steady and full of awe. You're actually doing it. Emily didn't respond. She didn't have to. Her focus was all on the darkness, which was now retreating, pushed back by the light she was channeling. She could feel the weight of it lifting, little by little, as if the curse was being drawn out of Michael's very soul. But it wasn't over. Emily's mind raced with the realization that the curse wasn't just a force to be fought. It was part of Michael, a part of him that had to be separated. The more she pushed, the stronger it fought back. A low, guttural whisper echoed in her mind, a voice that was both Michael's and the curse's, blending together in a horrific symphony. You cannot free him, the voice hissed. He is mine. He always will be. Emily felt a surge of fear, but she refused to let it take hold. She had come this far. She wasn't going to give up now. I don't believe you, she whispered, her voice a defiant declaration in the face of the darkness. You won't take him. Not again. With a final surge of energy, Emily pulled the darkness to the surface, drawing it out of Michael, and as she did, she felt it. The curse, the dark essence that had plagued him for so long, began to unravel. The room grew lighter, the air warmer. She had done it. But as the darkness began to fade, Emily realized something she hadn't anticipated. Her connection to Michael had deepened. She could feel his presence, his soul, the bond they shared. And though the curse was gone, a new challenge lay ahead. The question now was not whether she had freed him, but whether they could live in the light, together. The light in the room continued to grow, filling the chamber with a warmth that had once felt impossible. Emily stood there, her hands still outstretched, as the remnants of the curse dissolved into the air like smoke. Michael, who had been bound by the shadows for so long, now stood free, but there was something different in the air. The connection between them, forged in the heat of the battle against the darkness, felt stronger than ever. He took a cautious step toward her, his eyes filled with a mixture of awe and gratitude. You really did it, he said, his voice barely a whisper, as though he still couldn't quite believe it. Emily nodded, her breath still coming in quick, uneven bursts, but there was a calmness settling in her chest. We did it, she corrected him softly, her gaze never leaving his. For a moment, they just stood there in silence, the weight of what they had just accomplished hanging in the air. It wasn't just the curse that had been broken. It was something deeper, something that bound them together now in a way neither of them had anticipated. Michael reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands, and for the first time in what seemed like centuries, he smiled, really smiled. It was small, but it was real. I didn't think this would be possible, he confessed, his voice filled with emotion. I've been lost for so long, but you've brought me back. Emily's heart ached as she looked into his eyes, the depth of his pain and the warmth of his gratitude both overwhelming. She had freed him from the curse, but now there was something even more fragile between them, an unspoken question of what came next. They had fought together, survived together, but could they truly live together in the light? What happens now? Emily asked, her voice soft, yet tinged with uncertainty. Michael's smile faded slightly, replaced by a look of quiet contemplation. I don't know, he admitted, but for the first time in centuries, I think I have a chance at figuring it out. And for that, I'm more grateful than I can put into words. Emily's heart fluttered in her chest as she reached out, taking his hand. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Together, they could face whatever came next. And that, for now, was enough. The days that followed were quiet, almost peaceful, but an undeniable tension lingered between Emily and Michael. They had broken the curse, freed him from the darkness, but now they faced an entirely new challenge. What came after? Emily couldn't help but wonder if they could ever truly return to normal, or if the bond they now shared was something that would forever define them. Michael had spent centuries in the shadows, and though he was free, he was still learning how to navigate the world of light again. Emily, too, was changed, but in a different way. She had never expected to be thrust into a world like this, a world filled with ancient curses, unimaginable powers, and a connection to a man whose past was both heartbreaking and terrifying. As they sat in the quiet of the library one evening, the soft light from the candle flickering between them, Michael broke the silence. I don't know how to do this, he said, his voice hesitant, almost unsure. How do we move forward from here? You've given me everything, but I feel like I don't even know where to begin. Emily looked at him, her heart aching for him, but she knew, deep down, that he had more strength than he realized. You don't have to have all the answers right now, she said, her voice calm but firm. We'll take it one step at a time. Together. Michael met her gaze, his eyes filled with gratitude and uncertainty. But what if I'm not ready? He asked, his voice a whisper. What if this peace we've found, is just temporary? What if it all falls apart again? Emily reached out, taking his hand gently in hers. Then we rebuild, she said softly. We face it together, no matter what. There's no going back, Michael. We've already crossed that line. But we're not alone anymore. Michael stared at her for a moment, a quiet understanding passing between them. For the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to believe in hope. It wasn't going to be easy, but maybe, just maybe, they could build something new, something real. And for the first time in centuries, Michael Thompson felt the warmth of possibility, a warmth that wasn't born from the shadows, but from the light of a future they would create together. Weeks passed, and the world around Emily and Michael began to shift. The weight of the past, the years of darkness, still lingered, but it was no longer something that defined them. They had come so far, and yet, every day brought a new discovery about themselves, about each other, and about the future they were trying to build together. They spent their days quietly, finding small moments of peace in the chaos of life, learning how to be present, learning how to truly live. One evening, as they sat together by the fireplace in the library, the warmth of the fire casting shadows across the room, Emily looked at Michael, her heart full. Do you ever think about what comes next? She asked, her voice soft. Michael paused, his gaze fixed on the flames, but there was a calmness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. I do, he said, his voice thoughtful. I used to think that there was only darkness ahead of me, that there was no escaping it. But now I see something else, something brighter, something worth fighting for. Emily smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. We fought so much, Michael. We've faced things that no one should ever have to face. But we've made it through. Together. Michael turned to her, his eyes filled with something deeper than gratitude, something she couldn't quite name, but she felt it in her soul. I know, he said, his voice thick with emotion. And I don't know what the future holds. But for the first time in centuries, I'm not afraid. I'm not alone. They sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of everything they had been through and everything they had yet to face hanging between them. But it was different now. The darkness that had once been so all-encompassing no longer had a hold on them. They had freed themselves from its grip, and in its place, there was hope. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it felt like a future they could face together. We'll figure it out, Emily said softly, squeezing his hand. Michael nodded, his gaze steady. We will, he agreed. And in that moment, they both knew that no matter